this episode is a complete and a total waste of time, or is it? Well, on the surface, it is. Since Liko and Roy seek out a fan of Nidothing, Litten SuperFan, or Nyabiko for short, because she supposedly saw Rayquaza only to find that she lied, meaning that Liko and Roy unknowingly went on a fool's errand. They got nothing out of this trip and episode. This is the very definition of a waste of time. However, if you look a little deeper, you'll find that this episode wasn't in fact a fruitless endeavor. Why? Well, because Nyabiko is friendly and kind towards Liko and Roy initially, but ends up turning against them when she learns that they are part of the Rising Bolt Tacklers, only to then change her mind following a battle with Liko and an unexpected encounter with several angry wild Pokémon. Two events that allow Liko and Roy to demonstrate that they are not the bad guys Spinel and Exceed made them out to be. This is what gives this episode value. We went into this episode knowing full well, because of episodes 90 and 91, just how terrible the reputation of the Rising Bolt Tacklers is now. Most people see them as nefarious villains that did something horrible at Mount Kumuri, and they treat them as such, actively hating and distrusting them to the point that Liko's schoolmates turned on Roy immediately upon learning that he is a member of the Rising Bolt Tacklers. So these two episodes made it clear that it would be in Liko and Friends' best interest to keep their affiliation a secret going forward. Nyabiko turning on them instantly only reinforces this and just how bad public perception of them is. At the same time though, episodes 90 and 91 also showed us that not everyone believes what Spinel and Exceed told the world. There are still those who believe in the Rising Bolt Tacklers, like Anne for example, and even those that bought into the lie can be persuaded otherwise, or they can at least be talked into ceasing hostilities. The latter is what happened with Liko's schoolmates after she proudly revealed to them that she is a member of the Rising Bolt Tacklers, while the former is what happens in episode 93. Episodes 90 and 91 gave Liko and Friends and us a glimmer of hope. Their reputation is tarnished, yes, but it won't stay this way forever. Not everything is lost. Their name can be cleared. They won't be hated for eternities. Episode 93 turns this glimmer of hope into a full-blown beacon. It's the first real sign that redemption is possible, that the truth can take root, and that trust can be rebuilt over time. If they can turn one hater into a fan, if they can turn one enemy into an ally, then they can do it again and again with just about anyone they encounter, allowing them to slowly but surely restore their good name. Especially if they can win over people like Nyabiko, who not only pledges her support, but also promises to help clear their name by spreading the truth about who they really are. If Liko and Friends end up having to publicly oppose Exceed, having the public on their side will be not only reassuring, but also likely essential. In fact, near the end of the opening, we see Liko and Friends looking ahead with determination, and they are not alone. Several characters, including Anne, who like I already mentioned still believes in them, Nemona, who also almost certainly still believes in them, and Nyabiko, who they managed to turn into a believer in this episode, are seen standing behind them, both literally as in they are physically behind them, and presumably symbolically too, as in they have their backs. They are supporting them. I'm willing to bet that while a lot of these characters might be here just as filler to sell the illusion that one of the endgame objectives of this arc is to gather allies all over the world, some of these characters like Nyabiko will indeed appear in future episodes, and we will see how they become supporters of the Rising Bolt Tacklers. Nemona for sure will return, right? So episode 93 is not just the beginning of the comeback, but it also proves that a comeback is very much possible. Therefore, this episode is certainly not a waste of time or of an episode. Now, it would have been easy to have Nyabiko be just your average Nidothing fan with no depth or special meaning behind her character. This is something that would have been detrimental to the episode. After all, no one wants a character of the day that is boring and uninteresting. Thankfully though, Nyabiko was given a distinct personality, clear motivations, and genuine growth, making her presence meaningful and her role in the episode impactful. She's not just any Nidothing fan, she's a veritable super fan to the point that she is even covered in handmade Nidothing merchandise, which includes her outfit. More importantly, she wants to be the biggest and best Nidothing fan. She wants to be a special Nidothing fan, a status she believes Liko has achieved. Something that makes Nyabiko jealous, hence why she took on the name Litten SuperFan, an almost direct copy of Sprigatito SuperFan, Liko's username. Not only do they both have SuperFan in their username, but they also included the name of their starter Pokemon, who both just so happen to be cats. Quite the coincidence, right? It's obvious that the intent was to paint Liko and Nyabiko as fans that have a lot in common. Two passionate Nidothing supporters, each with a beloved cat starter Pokemon and usernames that mirror each other and that include said beloved cat starter Pokemon. It's a perfect setup for the birth of both a wonderful friendship and a powerful rivalry. Nyabiko is essentially Liko's reflection, someone who mirrors her interests, passion, and online identity. When two people are so alike, it's only natural that their paths will eventually cross, not just as friends, but as rivals competing for the same spotlight. Which is exactly what happens, though in a one-sided manner since Liko isn't interested in competing. She's just genuinely thrilled to meet a fellow fan. Meanwhile, Nyabiko might have felt the same way at first, but she ultimately chooses to turn their shared passion into a contest, eager to prove she's the bigger fan by trying to one-up Liko without clear hostility. That is, until she learns who they are. Nyabiko challenges Liko to a battle supposedly because associating with the Rising Bolt Tacklers could tarnish Nidothing's reputation. Hence why she makes Liko promise to stay away from Nidothing if she loses. I don't doubt that this might be Nyabiko's sole reason for wanting to battle Liko, but I think that she also seizes the opportunity to finally prove her superiority over Liko once and for all. Her desire to eliminate and outdo someone she deems as a threat to who she wants to be is partly what leads to their battle. Setting Nyabiko up to be Liko's parallel was simply brilliant. A one-sided rivalry born of jealousy and envy, which Liko ends up buying into likely because she becomes aware of it and believes that entertaining it might be the only way to defuse the situation, adds so much more weight and meaning to this episode and the battle beyond what the simple premise could have provided on its own. And speaking of the battle, predictably Liko and Nyabiko use Meowscarada and Incineroar respectively. She may be Litten SuperFan, but obviously she wouldn't use one as her main battling Pokemon. So I fully expected Incineroar. This is another way in which she parallels Liko. Their cat starter Pokemon is fully evolved now, meaning that perhaps they should update their usernames. Or rather, Liko should, because unlike her, Nyabiko does still have a Litten, two in fact, who by the way are both hilarious and adorable. So her username still fits. Also, this matchup is perfect because Meowscarada and Incineroar are both fully evolved cat starter Pokemon that stand on two legs even though their first forms don't, and that have Dark as their secondary type. Again, the parallels are very strong, all for the sake of making this battle and rivalry and the reasons behind them feel inevitable and meaningful respectively, which is simply wonderful. Now, as for the battle itself, overall, it's pretty good. The animation is solid, and the pacing stays engaging the whole way through with no dull moments. It's also an interesting and entertaining battle since Meowscarada and Incineroar fight in ways that suit them perfectly. Meowscarada compensates for her lack of raw power with agility and trickery, aiming to outmaneuver and outsmart her opponent. Meanwhile, Incineroar relies on brute strength, making its movements and attack patterns slow and predictable. Their contrasting styles create a compelling clash that keeps the battle engaging and enjoyable from start to finish. Meowscarada's agility easily exploits Incineroar's formulaic and telegraphed moves. However, its immense power allows it to shrug off anything thrown its way. Even attempts to trick it fall short. Their respective strengths and weaknesses play off each other beautifully, ensuring that this battle has some depth, elevating it from mundane and average into something somewhat special. Not to mention it's also hilarious, most notably when Incineroar ends up looking like it just got through an episode of Tom and Jerry. While it might lack intensity and thus punch, this can be attributed to the low stakes and the fact that this is not a very serious battle. So I can excuse that it isn't exactly a heated or thrilling affair. I do however take issue with the fact that Liko struggles a bit too much. Obviously, we don't know Nyabiko's skill level, but considering that Liko has battled gym leaders, a member of the Elite Four, legendary Pokemon, and even a champion, and she has defeated some of them, not alone of course, but she still held her own, I feel that some random character of the day shouldn't give Liko this much trouble. Now yeah, she does have the type disadvantage, however, I still feel that she should have had a much easier time in this battle. Is this further proof of Liko's reset? Perhaps. But hey, at least she didn't lose. That would have really triggered me. Though of course she doesn't win either since the battle is interrupted. So there is no winner, which is something else I take issue with. After all, I hate battles without a clear outcome. Like, what's even the point of having a battle or any sort of contest, competition, etc. if we don't get a clear result? Most of the time, it feels like a waste of time, unless the entertainment value is through the roof, which is not really the case here. We cannot even predict who would have won had the battle continued because both sides were pretty evenly matched. Again, unrealistically so in my opinion, making the lack of a clear outcome even more frustrating. Finally, I just want to reiterate two gripes I had with the previous episode that are reinforced by this one. First, Uruto only shows up to cause trouble, which yeah, ends up being helpful, but it doesn't change the fact that being a nuisance seems to be all he's good for so far. And the second, Dot continues to only contribute remotely, which again is something I very much don't like. So overall, this episode was pretty good. While it had very little going for it to begin with, and it ended up feeling like a waste of time at first glance, the fact that it's actually a surprisingly worthwhile and significant episode when you look beyond the surface, and the fact that it provided us with a decently entertaining battle and a character of the day that brought an interesting and compelling dynamic to the table, do allow this episode to go from a boring and pointless experience that was a waste of time into an engaging and meaningful experience that was worth our time. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, feel free to click the links on screen. And if you'd like to support the channel and help me keep making content like this, you can find ways to do so in the description below. Your support truly means the world to me. Thank you so much for watching, and let's meet again in the next video.